I have to say that so many of these webinars are wonderful to refer clients to when it's convenient for them, because so many clients are working.
Yeah.
So many of these webinars are wonderful. Okay, so there we are. Okay, we are being live streamed. I'm going to set up my slides, and so I'll do my few slides and then I'll stop sharing and let you take over.
Okay. Once she gets in here, we should test to make sure she can share.
Yeah, we can do that. That'll be fine. We still have quite a few minutes.
Yeah. I'm just so tired today. We had a backpack with Teresa. We did a backpack giveaway with all the students this morning at Karamu. Yeah, it was out in the sun from like 9 to 1, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks.
Pretty warm day, yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand that. We've had such a hot summer.
I know, we really have. Plus, I got up really early today, and so it's just it's kind of all just coming to me here. And I'm supposed to golf tonight in my league. I'm like, I don't even know if I've got it in me.
Maybe you can take a short nap after the.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It'd have to be about 15 minutes.
Well, sometimes that's enough.
That's true. That's true. She said she's in the waiting room.
Oh, why would she be in the waiting room?
I am not sure. Hold on a second.
She shouldn't be in the waiting room.
Hold on, I just said, did you use the one
I don't have it set up for a waiting room, so I don't know how she would be in there.
Hold on, you know what? I might have sent her the one. Let me see if it's different. Yeah, but I got in, so the 4432. Let me go and see what I sent her before. Teresa. Which one's this? 4432. Yeah, it's the same. 3184. Why would she be in the waiting room? Could you make her a panelist?
If I could figure out how to get her out of the waiting room, yeah. How did
you want me to have her? Well, if she hangs up, or what do you want me to tell her?
Well, if you give me her email address, I can send her the link.
All right. So her email is Teresa, TERESA. Dot P as in Paul. Dot Bargards, B as in boy, ARGAR.
Okay.
Hold on, I just linked at chase.com.
Okay. Okay, let me back out of here and I'll just
because see, we typically can't go in through the link. We just actually use the code because our security won't let us use the link, because she's probably not using it from her computer. She's probably on her phone. And so we don't actually use the link. We just go through the number, which is that webinar ID.
I see. Oh, okay.
But we'll see. Maybe she's on her computer. She actually probably is on her computer, because she's got to share the screen. So
yeah. See if I can send her the link. Okay, here we go.
So she must have used the link. Because she said I can type it in if you send me the number. I said I use the number, so maybe she was using the link.
I sent her the link,
Okay.
which should have all the information in it.
All right.
So,
And if not, for whatever reason, I can send you the deck
okay.
if she can't get it to work. Let me actually send it to you right now in case we have that problem. I'm sorry that you would have to
Not a
ship the
problem.
slides. Okay. uh, all right, I just sent you the deck.
Okay. Get back into my email.
All right, we'll see if she's able to join. If not, then the show must go on.
Thought for a minute there, I was not going to be able to download it.
So it is just a PDF. So if you,
Yeah. Yeah.
as long as you do full screen on and right click, you don't need to do anything else to it.
Okay.
Yeah, she said she's got the same number. She can't get in, so
We
we'll
can't-
roll with it.
Okay. Well, okay, I am going to see where. I'm going to open it up and we can start webinar, let people in. I'll do my slides and then I'll pull up your slides.
Sounds good.
Good afternoon to those of you who are just joining us. We will get started in a couple of minutes. We'll just wait for a few more people to come on. Okay, I think we'll just go ahead and get started. Most of the people who are attending have probably seen my slides before. So while they're coming on, I'll start through these. So welcome everybody, and we're happy that you are interested in spending an hour with us to learn about navigating cash flow. I'd like to give you a little bit of information about SCORE, and then we'll get into our session. So my name is Anita Kayat, and I am a SCORE mentor with the Cleveland office. You probably already know, SCORE has the largest network of free volunteer small business mentors in the country. And no matter what stage your business is, we probably have a mentor who can help you. We have more than 10,000 mentors in SCORE across the nation. So if someone in our local chapter doesn't have the background that is needed to help you, we can tap into that network and find somebody who does. So our mission is to foster vibrant small business communities, and we do this through mentoring and also through education. We hope that you as a small business owner will be able to thrive and grow your business. We know that small business drives our national economy. More than 95% of all businesses are small businesses. So the economy would collapse without you. And of course, the same is true of the Cleveland area. We have clients from all walks of life. About 10% of our entrepreneurs are veterans, and over half of our clients are women. So a lot of women starting businesses these days, and we're really excited about that. Here are some statistics from the last full year that we have statistics for, and this is for the Cleveland area. You note that we cover 7 counties along the lake from Ashtabula on the east all the way to Huron and Erie counties on the west. Our services are free, partially because we're supported by the Small Business Administration, and also because very many of the banks and other companies in the Cleveland area support us because they want to see small businesses succeed. This is just a reminder that we have upcoming a networking event on September 12th. It's a live event at the Holiday Inn in Independence. And if you go to our website, you'll see this particular landing page and you can register. Not only will you be meeting a lot of other small business owners, but also a number of the Cleveland SCORE mentors. This is a snapshot of our website. If you go here, you can request a mentor, you can take a workshop. There are lots of local resources, and you'll find here templates for a business plan, for marketing. You'll find lots of articles. But one of the valuable things too is all of the webinars that we give, we record them and they end up on our website. So if you miss one, you can go to our website and find it. And I'm going to stop sharing that, and I'm going to take a minute here and pull up our other slides, if I can get rid of that.
I'd be happy to introduce myself too while you're getting that up, if that's okay.
Yes,
Okay.
Laura, just let me just say, Laura Gibbons is our speaker today, and she will certainly know as much about cash flow as anybody because she is the vice president and senior consultant for minority enterprises at Chase. And let me make sure I've got, let me see how I can get back in here. Have to go back in. Here we go. Nope, that's not it. Here we go.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
So if you go up to the top under file, you could do full screen mode, and that'll put it into the kind of the normal where you can kind of flip
I'm
the screen.
trying to.
Up in the left there is a second. I can't see it because it's a little smaller, but under oh yeah, that's weird that it doesn't have it like that. Maybe it might be under menu in the top corner potentially. Normally if I have it under in Adobe, you could do full screen, but I mean, this will work if everybody can see it as long as you can advance it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it moves. Okay. No big deal. Okay. So, as mentioned, so I am Laura Gibbons. I am senior business consultant over at Chase. So, like she said, I run a minority entrepreneur mentorship program. It's part of our $30 billion racial equity commitment that we made almost 3 years ago now, at Chase. So you won't be able to see, I don't think you'll be able to see my face today since you guys are kind of sharing the screen here because was having some technical stuff happen today. But nonetheless, the most important piece is actually what's on the screen and not so much me. We will be sending out a workbook that matches up with some of the information that I'm going to talk about today. It's very helpful. There's a lot of links in it that are going to help you with some awesome tools that I'm going to share, like our cash flow tool, a vendor analysis tool. So we'll kind of talk through those a little bit and how you can use them once we kind of complete. So Teresa Barger's on the line as well. She is my community manager. We work very closely in the community. So she focuses a lot on working with organizations around financial literacy for whether it be savings, budgeting, home lending, investing. And then really I kind of come in on the business side. So, please connect with both of us on LinkedIn. We post a lot about different events that we're speaking at and different organizations that we work with across Northeast Ohio. So always welcome to join any of those things that we have going on. All right, you can kind of advance probably the next and then probably a couple slides forward. Right there is perfect. Okay, so let's start talking about cash flow. You have to have cash available to pay your suppliers, your employees, rent your space, pay taxes, and reinvest in the business, right? A lot of times people used to come to me when I did business loans and would say, hey, I've got good credit, I've got money in the bank. You can see all the money that's kind of flowing through your account. I don't understand why I didn't get approved. Well, it's money in the bank is nice to have, but it's not really cash flow, right? Money is money that's coming in consistently as it's going out consistently to pay payroll or purchase inventory, right? So on a tax return, we want to make sure that we're seeing that there's actually kind of a profit at the end of the day, that what you're doing on a daily basis is actually producing some revenue at the bottom, at the end of the day. Okay. Next slide, please. So even profitable businesses can fail if they spend at the wrong time. So tie up too much cash in inventory, or they don't collect in a timely fashion. That can cause some problems. You can go to the next slide. There we go. Okay, so let's take a quick little survey. You don't have to answer this, okay? But I just want you to kind of think through it as we're talking about this. So how confident are you that you have the cash to bridge a 1-month closure of your business? So I want you to think that through a little bit, because we learned a lot during COVID about having access. If we were to shut our doors tomorrow, how much time would we actually be able to stay open if we didn't sell another dollar, another product, and didn't have anything coming in? Okay, so think through that a little bit as we get going. Next slide, please. So here's some things that we're actually going to kind of cover today through this class. So cash flow basics. So we'll talk about some concepts that can help you begin thinking more strategically about cash flow, including those cash buffer days that we just talked about, and the types of inflows and outflows that are out there. Maximizing your cash in, so some strategies to help you get more cash coming in the door, and then minimizing your cash out, which are areas where you might be able to cut costs or reduce the amount of cash going out the door. And hopefully after this presentation, you'll have a chance to begin using our cash flow tool to help analyze your business. Okay, next slide. So to go back to the survey question that I first asked you to kind of think about a little bit, you might not be shocked to know that 50% of small businesses are operating with fewer than 15 cash buffer days. Next slide, please. If you're not confident about your cash position, you're not alone. A cash buffer is the cash on hand that's available to cover expenses without any revenue, like I said. And this was a study that was conducted between 2013 and 2017, and half of businesses had enough cash to make it through 2 weeks. That's a little bit of a scary situation to think about, right? So what would you do if you suddenly had no cash coming in? And you can go to the next slide. As we saw after COVID hit, there was a lot of confusion, right? Whole states were shut down. That cash buffer gives you that time you need to collect your thoughts, right? Strategize, and potentially tackle a challenge head on. Go to the next slide, please. So at the end of the day, there's really 3 basic types of cash inflows. Okay, so how cash is actually coming into the business, and outflows, which is how cash gets spent. All right, so there's 3. It's literally operating, investing, and financing. So let's break down each one a little bit. So operating. So this is the cash that's collected and spent to support your main activities. For example, if you sell a product, right, that's a cash inflow, right? You sold it, now the money's coming in for it. For on the outflow side is the money you spend to keep the lights on, to market your product, pay your employees. Basically, it's anything that kind of helps keeps your business running. Okay. So then we shift to the investing. This is the cash that's collected and spent on long-term investments. So here's an example. An investment inflow might be money you collect renting out part of your space, let's say to another business. An investment outflow, which is probably a little bit more common, it's the money you spend to, let's say, purchase the building, or it's the purchase of new equipment that enables your business to grow. And then the third one is financing. This is the cash collected or spent on loans, dividends, or equity. So for an example, if you, let's say you sold an ownership stake in your business as a way to bring in more cash for your business, that would be a financing inflow, money coming in the door. As an outflow, a little bit more common again, would be loan payments you're making each month on that particular business loan. Okay. So all of those basic inflows and outflows are going to fall into one of these 3 basic categories. So next slide, please. So this is where this is going to really help you. Now, I know you can't see the slide perfectly, but when you get access to the workbook, you're going to be able to see this large on your screen. You're going to be able to interact with it. There's drop downs. You'll be able to select everything and kind of run your own analysis. Okay. So for today, I apologize, but we're going to just have to talk through it, and then you'll be able to kind of do the activity yourself. So this handy tool will help you to visualize a year of those inflows and outflows. Okay. You can plug in numbers and then run scenarios based on how your business might perform in the coming year. So a lot of times where people have also found this really helpful is when you're doing your business plan, right? You do your business plan, you get all the verbiage down, but what's the most challenging part is the projections piece, right? So you could use this tool to actually do a year of projections and then say, okay, maybe I want to grow by 10%, or I'm going to potentially add an additional 15 or 20% in outflows, which would be payroll potentially, or doubling inventory, whatever the case might be. And then you'd run it again. And now you're talking about year 2 scenarios. So go to the next screen. This might be a little bit more helpful of how it will look. Okay. So the first one is going to be inflows. So there's going to be drop-down menus that allow you to add the different kinds of inflows within that operating, investing, or financing category. There's a description line, so you'll be able to describe the inflow in your own words. So let's just say it was, revenue because you sold a product, or, like we had given in the example, a payment that came in because you run out half your space. Okay. You can set the frequency for how often that money comes in. So maybe it's a monthly payment that comes in. So the system will automatically calculate them across the entire year monthly. Okay. So note when the money is deposited, when the cash is in your hands, and that's when you actually put that date, right? So once all the information is entered for that item, you're going to click add and it will appear in the ledger. Okay. Once you've added all the inflows, you're going to click continue to the outflows tab. So go ahead to the next page. So it's going to then switch to outflows. Okay. So the categories are different. Now we're talking about how you're spending cash. So that's, date withdrawn replaces date deposited. Okay. Once you enter in all your outflows, so it could be, payroll twice a month. It could be your rent once a month. It could be Equipment that you purchased one time. Okay. So you're going to kind of do a month snapshot and then you're going to run that report. Go ahead and click to the next slide and see how amazing this will be. You can then use these results to see how cash moves in and out of your business throughout the year. So these pie charts and these graphs are going to literally show you based off the numbers that you entered, what's that going to do for how much revenue you're going to make based off those numbers you put in. Subtracting out your total outflows, and that's going to give you your net, okay, for your entire year. The best part about this tool is that you can download it right into your business plan. So like I said, now all you're doing is typing in that information. It's doing the math for you. It's creating the charts and the pie graphs for you. It's just a matter of you then saying, okay, let me take now a look at year 2. What am I thinking I can project? Tweak the numbers a little bit, and then run the report again. And now you have year 2 projections. Okay. Very, very helpful tool. It can be used not only for projections, but why would this be used for a business that's already operating? Let's say that you have all your numbers and you are thinking, do I want to hire another employee? You could go into the outflows tab, add in what that's going to cost you monthly, and rerun the report and see if it makes sense. If everything else remains the same, can I afford to take on this employee? Right? Or maybe now I need to add into my inflow piece some additional revenue to make sure that I can cover that employee. So what does that look like? How many more units do I need to sell to feel comfortable adding this additional employee? And these numbers don't lie, right? If that's what it comes out to be, then you know where you have to be to make that work. Okay. All right. So that'll come to you in the workbook. Please check it out. It's really an amazing tool. All right. Next slide. So let's shift gears a little bit now. You can go to the next one and talk about maximizing cash in. Okay. Next slide, please. So any successful business has to be focused on getting money in the door. That requires a mix of creativity, knowledge, and organization. So let's look at a few ways to strengthen the ability of your business to earn some revenue. Next slide, please. So the first one that I like to talk about is to know your competition. If you've ever heard me speak before, every single class that I talk about, whether it's the power of capital, navigating cash flow, marketing in a digital world, this is one of the most important things that I think that you need to do is to know your competition. It is how you market against things. It is how you price. There's a host of different things as to why knowing your competition is so important. The digital transformation we're all experiencing is changing how we get things done, right? Customers expect more digital options for shopping, interacting with you, scheduling services, even making payments, right? So you also have to have more digital tools to help you run your business. You know how competitive it is out there. You have to be able to find yourself an edge. So that means taking a closer look at what your competitors are up to and finding the right mix of strategies and tools to help you succeed. Go ahead to the next slide. So when you get your workbook, it's going to be on page 11. You're going to find a link to a competitive analysis worksheet that was created by Chase. And this is going to really be able for you, as you'll see when you take a closer look, you'll be able to list your competitors and rate them based on value and price. So don't forget to fill in the same information about your business as well. Okay. You can go to the next slide. And once you enter in all that information, you'll see a grid that you see off here to the right. And that'll show you how your business stacks up with others in the terms of price and value. Okay. Very, very helpful because sometimes people say, well, I don't know why I lost to my competitor. Well, this is going to help you figure it out because you are putting a value to what they offer. And now you're going to know how to potentially sell against it. Or are you completely pricing yourself out of the market? Right. And if you are, okay, but why? What do you offer that is so different from your competitor that it's worth that additional money? And you have to understand that. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So the next one is, you can go one more further, sorry. The second one is segment your customers. People find this one a little bit confusing. So let's break it down a little bit. Okay, so you can go to the next one. To know your customers in a way that's actionable, you need to group them into categories that can help you develop outreach strategies. Okay, next slide, please. And you can go one more. So let's walk through an exercise that can help you better understand your customers. And like I said, you'll be able to see this in your workbook on page 12 once you get it. All right. So first you have the best customer. You can go to the next slide. These are the people who spend a lot. They might not shop with you every week or every month, but when they come in, it's a big deal. You can go to the next slide. So here's some characteristics of the best customer. What types of people are typically your best customers? What is their age? What's their gender? What's their level of wealth? Do they have kids, pets, right? So you're basically building a persona of who these people are. Take a minute to write down a few of the characteristics of your best customer when you have your workbook in front of you. So like, let me give you an example. A bookstore might have a middle-aged woman in the neighborhood whose children are grown and have moved away. Maybe she has grandkids too, and now every month she sends a bundle of books to those children. Maybe you've noticed there are other women her age who shop in the store a lot and buy piles of books. As a group, these folks might be considered your best customer. Okay, you have to set a sales goal for them. So what sales goal can you set for these customers? Because you know how often they're coming in and what they're typically spending. And from an outreach perspective, what are 2 or 3 new ways you can reach this customer segment? Okay, because remember, you're going to market differently to every single classification of client that you're segmented, right? You can't market to your best customer the same way you can to your wanting someone that you want to acquire. Okay. So let's go to the next one. That's the sustaining customer. So these are the people who don't necessarily spend a lot at one time, but you see them often enough that they are pretty loyal. So once again, what are their characteristics, right? What types of people are they? What is their age, their gender, level of wealth? Do they have kids, pets, right? Build that persona for that client. And let me give you an example. So a print shop might have a customer that comes in twice a year for event signage. The small, civically minded nonprofit isn't a big account, but it places an order every 6 months like clockwork, right? So that specific business, each type of business or industry will have a different definition of regular, right? But what's important is that these are customers you can count on. So what's the sales goal for them? Right now, it's twice a year, right? But what are 2 or 3 new ways that you can reach that customer segment, right? To try to get them to potentially spend more with you. All right, next one is your lookalike customer. So your lookalike customer is different from the others we talked about. These are people who should be your customers. They're a lot like the other groups of customers, but there's something that keeps them going to the competition rather than you. So characteristics, in what ways are they similar to your regular customers and how are they different? Okay, so for an example, an organic mattress maker has clients who care about the environment, who want to buy products they feel good about, yet these lookalike customers are buying the major brands. Why? Is it that they have a hard time trusting a small company? Are they afraid a green mattress won't actually be comfortable? What is it that's holding them back, right? What type of sales goals could you potentially set for these people? And what are 2 or 3 new ways that you can reach them, that customer segment? And this one, you're going to focus really more on the outreach. How do I reach these clients? And what could I potentially add to my sales if I were to get them over? Okay. All right. The last one is the aspirational customer. So these are the people who aren't currently your customers, but you really want their business, right? So what types of people do you want to buy your product or service? Once again, what's their age? What's their gender? What's their level of wealth, right? Build that persona for them. And let me give you an example. An apparel brand is popular with high schoolers, but its popularity wanes after graduation. How can that apparel company build loyalty that extends as customers grow and mature? That's a real issue for a lot of apparel places. What kind of sales goal can you set for those clients? And what are 2 or 3 new ways you can reach this customer segment? And really, as you start thinking about all 4 of the ones that we talked about, like I said, there is a big focus on the marketing piece because there is different strategies that you have to use to be able to try to obtain the last 2 that we talked about compared to the first 2. The first 2, they're your customers already. Maybe it's a loyalty program you have to offer. Maybe it's discounts that you have to offer to be able to get them to potentially purchase more. You've got more flexibility with those first 2. What do you do on those other 2 that could potentially really change the cash flow perspective of your business by adding additional revenue? Okay. Okay, so let me talk to you about the value of the segmentation. So next slide, please. Like I said, tailor your communications. And we just talked about that. Reward loyalty, identify new audience, right? These are all ways that will help you to potentially grow. All right, so let's move on to number 3. That is consider your prices. Okay. Let's look at how prices affect your ability to bring in cash. Next slide, please. In such a competitive business world, even small differences in price can mean big differences in sales and revenue. Make sure you're considering everything that goes into your product or service. So many times people tell me, this is what I pay for something. This is how much I sell it for. Why? Tell me why. What numbers are you building into that price structure? Are you covering all your expenses? Right? And maybe it's not going to be in every single product you're going to cover every expense, but if you're selling 10 or 15 or 20 of something, are you pricing it enough so that it's going to cover all your costs, right? So for an example, accounting software or cleaning services need to be covered by revenue. Are they currently being built into your prices? Right? These are all things that are going to cost your business money that have to be kind of calculated when it comes to what dollar amount you're putting to your product. Okay, next slide, please. So pricing that's good for you and your customers. So if you decide to increase your prices, there's a few ways you can bring in more revenue and offer greater value to your customers. So you could potentially bundle items or services that deliver more at a high price point, or a higher price point, I should say. You can offer discounts when customers place a big order. Okay, that's a real thing that happens a lot. You can provide favorable payment terms, such as a longer period to pay or a lower service fee if your customer agrees to make a bigger commitment to you. Okay, all different creative ways that you can potentially take advantage of that. Next slide, please. So the 4th one is collect on your sales. So regardless of what you charge, you have to make sure you're actually collecting the money, right? I always say you can't pay your bills with invoices. All right, so next slide. So you have to have a clear process for how your customers, how customers pay makes good business sense. The more efficient you can make payment processing, the faster money gets into your account, right? If you're accepting checks still and you're waiting for it to get mailed to you, your cycle is way longer than somebody who accepts credit cards and gets it next day, right? Okay, so many businesses now enable online ordering and payment, which can drastically reduce the amount of time before the cash is in your hands. Ultimately, whatever you can do to avoid bottlenecks and slowdowns will mean more cash on hand for your business. Okay. All right, next slide, please. So how to improve your receivables process? Revisit payment policies, right? Constantly. You have to continually revisit that. We change things all the time. I mean, we didn't have Apple Pay and the tapping and all those types of things, a few years ago. So you have to constantly be thinking, what are the ways that people are actually getting paid for services? And is there something that you could potentially do to update that? Create an invoice as soon as your product or service is delivered. You cannot wait. Okay. I understand that people get busy, especially in a contractors type situation where you bill people or other services that you may send a bill out to somebody. If you're waiting to send those invoices, you're just waiting to get money in the door. Okay. So you have to have a system or a software, an accounting software that could potentially generate invoices for you. A lot of times quoting software where you're putting a quote out there also produces invoices once you've actually completed that invoice or quote and submitted it as a sale. Okay. Monitor accounts receivable and follow up quickly on overdue payments. Just because you send that invoice out doesn't mean it's guaranteed money in, right? We know the hassle of 30, 60, 90 plus days for people to pay on things, right? So make sure that you have a system set in place where if you've sent an invoice and you don't have the money within 30 days, that you have some form of an additional invoice that goes out, a phone call that's made to that client, whatever it might be, okay? And monitor bank accounts to make sure money is deposited in a timely manner. Listen, I understand you're a business owner. You don't have time to be looking at your bank account every 5 minutes, but that's why you set up alerts. Okay. There's alerts on your account that you could set up anytime money's deposited, anytime a certain amount goes out, a wire goes out, you name it. There's hundreds of different alerts that you can set up. So let it do that. So, if there's some things that you want to monitor, then you don't even have to log in.
You could just get the text message or the email that something came in, and at least you're just kind of have that peace of mind in the back of your head. And then at the end of the day, if you want to log in and take a look, then you can do that. Okay. And continue to evaluate and adjust your process just to kind of keep you fresh, like we kind of started that conversation. Okay. Okay, so let's shift into minimizing cash out. Next slide, please. So most businesses can reduce their expenditures in at least 5 ways. One is to reevaluate your vendor relationships. Okay, a lot of times people think that they are stuck with whoever they use to get their product in. If we learned anything from COVID also with the supply chain jam up that we all got into, you've got to be able to have additional options. If you sold 100 units of something, but you can't get the product in from your vendor, you got a big problem, right? So are we making sure that we have a backup or potentially other vendors that we're keeping in mind in case we needed to use them to keep our business moving forward? Build a high-performing team, taking a fresh look at real estate, controlling spending on your inventory, and getting real value from your marketing. And we're going to break each one of those down a little bit. So go to the next slide, please. So first is the vendor relationships. How has your business potentially changed? Has your cash position changed? Has the vendor changed their terms? Are there options that could meet your needs better than what you're currently doing? And if any of these things are true, it might be time for you to reevaluate some of those vendor relationships. Okay. So there's actually a worksheet that you're going to get in your book that can help you analyze the value of each of the vendor relationships and decide whether to strengthen them or to potentially move on to a new vendor. Okay. Okay. The next one was the high performing teams. You can go one more. So payroll alone can account for 70% of total business spending. That's why it is important to have a high performing team. So here's a few questions to consider when evaluating your team. What needs to be done and when? Who needs to do it? What can be automated, done less often, or even outsourced? What can you as a business owner delegate? Are there gaps in your staffing that could be filled by a contractor or an intern? There's nothing wrong with that. I talk about that with my clients all the time because sometimes they just need somebody part-time. And it's hard to find somebody part-time because they want benefits or they need to, be making more money to support their family. So a lot of times interns or contractors could potentially fill those gaps. Is seasonal staffing an option, depending on what type of business that you have? So once you've evaluated your team, you might be able to shift people around a little bit to improve performance. Sometimes it's just that people get a little bit stagnant in the role that they're in. And though it's always a hard decision, you might consider laying off employees who aren't providing what your business needs. You also want to make sure to invest in your people, right? Your employees want to be their best. This might mean creating incentives or providing training and structuring for your business so that talented people actually have some room to grow within the company. Sometimes people are just looking for that path where they could potentially, fall in love with the company as much as you do and put their best foot forward to continue to grow with you. All right, next slide, please. So we touched on real estate. So real estate can be expensive, right? And many businesses are discovering that they don't actually need all that space anymore, right? Is your current location delivering what you need? Foot traffic patterns have changed. That downtown space might have made sense 2 years ago, but it sure doesn't today, right? Has your bargaining power increased recently? If you're in the market to begin or renew a lease, you might be able to negotiate favorable terms. If you're in a building where there's 2 other units that are empty, guess what? You've got leverage, right? They don't want to lose you. So you don't have to sit there and pay what they're going to tell you. It's time to negotiate a little bit, okay? Did you rent or buy? So research how much your mortgage payments would be compared with your rent, but don't forget to factor in that down payment piece if you're thinking about purchasing something, okay? All right, so the last one was spending on inventory. Or no, there was 2 more. So spending on inventory is the next one. Inventory ties up cash. Do you have the right amount? And I know it can be very challenging to make sure that you have enough inventory. But there are ratios that can help you calculate the time it takes for your business to transform inventory into revenue. Or you might even use an inventory management software, which includes tools to help you right-size your inventory. Okay, next slide. And the last one's the marketing, right? I'm going to talk about this one again. Marketing is a little bit of art, a little bit of science. But if you're not focused on specific goals, your marketing can cost a lot without showing much return. To more precisely target your marketing spend, you may need to experiment with different strategies and marketing channels to find the most efficient and effective approach. To experiment effectively, you'll need to develop marketing metrics and collect data. A lot of times people say, well, I don't know how to do the analytic piece. Listen, if you're using social media, it's built in. Okay. There's Google Analytics, there's email analytics, there's Facebook uses analytics. You can figure out who's looking at your stuff, how many people have actually you've converted, how many people are looking and then not buying. All of this information is really important. Okay. Even when it comes down to just coupon tracking, or how did you hear about us when you're asking somebody, right? There's ways that you can figure out how people are hearing about you. And if you're spending all your time doing all this different marketing and all these different channels and you're not really calculating the data, you could be spending way too much time in areas that nobody's even saying your information. Okay. And we talk more about that in our marketing class. So, we'll probably redo that one at some point here. That's a really good one. Okay. Next slide, please. So making cash work for you. So we hope you've learned a lot today and done some good work for your business. Next slide, please. Analyzing your cash flow and making adjustments is a critical first step towards strengthening the fundamentals of your business. Okay. Remember, once you get that workbook, you're going to have access to the cash flow tool, the vendor analysis tool, okay, the competitor or competitive analysis tool. These are all things that are going to help you to truly strengthen a lot of aspects of your business, and don't be afraid to continually go back to them. And like I said, that business cash flow tool is not only for projections, but it's for, what am I going to do tomorrow? And how is that going to affect my business long-term, and being able to kind of play around with that. Okay. One more slide, please. So let's take a quick survey to see if your feelings have changed a little bit after today's session. Next slide, please. And this is, after this course, do you feel a little bit more confident about your ability to manage your cash flow? I hope that you have learned something today that might be able to help you with that a little bit. And that would be the point, obviously, to take something away. So, just like I said, review all the material. I think there's some really amazing stuff in there. And we will open it up now for a little bit of Q&A. If you want to go to the next slide.
I don't see any questions. I have to say that I think you have laid it out in such a nice, practical way that helps people to understand how to think about their cash flow, maybe in a different way than they have been.
Yeah, there's a lot of great tools, so it'll be helpful to use those.
Some
Go ahead.
questions. When factoring prices to customers for a service-oriented business, how often do businesses price services related to overall expenses versus competitor prices for similar services?
Yeah, well, to be honest, it's a little bit of both, right? Like we kind of said, I mean, your competitors are probably pricing that way because they've factored in some of their expenses as well, right? That's how they got to that number. That's why it's really important to look at a lot of competitors, because if there may be that one person that's pricing super low, but to be quite honest, they're not even covering their expenses. And guess what? They may get a few jobs, but they may not be there long-term because they're not going to be able to sustain that, right? So you want to make sure that you're doing enough competitive analysis where you're looking at multiple companies to understand the ranges. Because remember, sure, people start out offering things a lot cheaper than what your value is, right? But then there comes a time in business where you're not willing to lower that price to win that job because you know the value that you need to bring in to make that make sense for you, right? So, and sometimes it might be a fact that you got to look in the mirror a little bit too and say, listen, my costs are way too expensive on my end. How do I potentially bring down those expenses on my side, right? So that I might be able to make that price work for my business. So there's a couple of things at play there. But I just think you got to just do a lot of research on not only yourself, but a lot of competitors. And hopefully you'll be able to kind of find a happy medium on that.
So you might think about what value have we added in addition to what the competitor is doing. And
Sure.
so you can price it higher and use that for marketing. So that goes well too. Next question, going cashless with customer payments can simplify bookkeeping and inventory tracking. How can it also be used to target one's customer demographics? Can it be a beneficial strategy?
So, I mean, well, here's what we talk about this in our marketing class. If I'm answering this question correctly, if you're saying like, how do you capture the information potentially, if you're doing a cashless type business, there's a lot of ways that you can capture the information from who's actually making that purchase. If they're not directly in front of you, like example, entering in your information. Obviously, you're going to have all of those details, email addresses to send receipts to. That's you then building a database, right, of your clients that you're going to be able to market to, and you're going to segment them based off of the spend that they're actually making, right? So if you see those customers that are coming back consistently, that they're going to be in that one group compared to ones that you see occasionally and some that you see just randomly. Right. So there's different ways that you can kind of capture their information and then track the way that they spend. I hope that answered the question.
When is the ideal time to evaluate your cash flow after starting a business? 3 months or sooner?
Well, that's a great question too. So, I mean, that takes us then into another whole different conversation where we start talking about marketing or accounting software, right? Where we need to making sure that we're tracking all the money that's coming in and all the money that's going out consistently. And if we're not using some type of a software to track all of that, then we're kind of flying blind, right? So my advice is to I tell people that if they're not looking at their financial statements once a month, they're not doing themselves any favors. Because if you see something, I always say trend over trend, right? So if you, let's say, and I know you said and it's from a startup perspective, but let's just say, for example, you're a 2-year-old business. If you're not looking at financial statements every month to compare it to what you did the year prior, you've given yourself no time to potentially make changes to help yourself continue to grow, to be on trend or on pace from what you did the prior year. So going back to you as a startup, it's something that you constantly have to evaluate to see. And remember, when you did your projections in the beginning, should be a number in your head that of how many units or services that you have to provide every week to hit those numbers that you projected, because you should have kind of figured all that math out, right? And that's why you're going to look at those statements to see, did I hit my quotas for that month? Am I spending the right that I said I was going to spend? Am I bringing in the amount that I thought I was going to bring in? You got to be all over those numbers all the time, in my opinion.
I missed the webinar. Is the recording available? Yes, we'll be sending out the recording as well as a copy of the slides probably tomorrow, and you should all get those. So I think we have answered all the questions, and so I'm going to thank you again, Laura, for doing this. I think this is a fantastic webinar. Anybody who's in business, if they're not monitoring their cash flow, are going to end up in trouble. I mean, I think this is just the most essential part of business. And I think you lay it out so well. It's so easy to follow, and your workbook is such a good tool along with it. That I think it can't be beat. And you gotta thank you so much, comment.
Awesome. My pleasure. Thank you all so much.
So everybody have a nice evening, and thank you for coming. Again, you'll get a copy of the slides and so forth. And Laura, again, thank you so much.
You're welcome.